Hello there, my name is Diana Kolesnik, and now we will unveil the top news of recent days. The Ukraine-EU Association Council was held today in Brussels. The parties discussed bilateral relations and the situation that has arisen due to the war started by Russia. During the closed meeting, the EU and Ukraine exchanged views on the situation that developed after the Russian aggression, focusing on the military, economic and humanitarian situation on the ground and the response to the Russian war. Then they touched the broader global and regional issues. The participants also exchanged views on the bilateral agenda, in particular implementation of the association agreement, implementation of the recommendations of the European Commission's report on Ukraine, issues of recovery and reforms in Ukraine, including EU financial assistance. The Prime Minister of Ukraine, Denis Shmyhal, announced that the European Parliament and the European Council have previously agreed to extend the import of Ukrainian goods without duties and quotas until June 2025. This will allow Ukraine maintain the dynamics of exports, support Ukrainian producers, strengthen the foundation for further integration into the EU single market, wrote Shmyhal. Prime Minister expects that the European Parliament will approve the agreed arrangements already in April.
Our key priority is long-term, sustainable and predictable military support from the EU. We are waiting for the effectiveness of the newly created aid fund for Ukraine within the EPF, which already this year provides for an additional 5 billion euros of military support. Denis Shmyhal, Prime Minister of Ukraine, on Telegram.
As early as 2022, the EU has been providing military aid to Ukraine through the European Peace Fund. In particular, it is used to compensate member countries for the weapons provided to Ukraine. And there is good news after discussions in Brussels. Today, Ukraine received 4.5 billion euros within the framework of transitional financing provided for by the Ukrainian facility. I am grateful to the EU and the President of European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, for their invaluable support. This strengthens our economic and financial stability, wrote Shmyhal. Putin may repeat the fate of Stalin, writes The Times. Thanks to amendments to the constitution of the Russian Federation in 2020, Putin has the right to serve 2 more terms as president until 2036, when he will already be 84 years old. Yes, in 2008, Putin transferred the power to Medvedev and now decided not to risk and simply change the constitution for himself. Changes to the constitution, which were urgently introduced in 2020, provide for Putin's right to serve as president for 2 more terms, namely until 2036, when he will be 84 years old. So the Russian dictator is on the path to becoming the oldest head of the Kremlin. When he reaches the age of 76, he will already be the head of former USSR leader Leonid Brezhnev as the oldest leader of the Kremlin. He will also overtake Joseph Stalin as Russia's longest-serving leader if elected again in 2030. Does anyone has doubts about this? Meanwhile, a Russian lives on average only 64 years. Even though Putin has access to the world's best medical care and is seen as a man who drinks little alcohol and exercises regularly, his many enemies expect him to die. If Putin dies during his presidency, his duties will temporarily pass to the head of government, currently occupied by Mikhail Mishustin. Putin's close encirclement insists that his legacy will live on. In turn, both the allies of the head of the Kremlin and his opponents realize that no one can give precise guarantees to this. 3 years after Stalin's death in 1956, his successor Nikita Khrushchev criticized Stalin's cult of personality and his pages. After the speech, the implementation of the de-Stalinization program began, which included dismantling monuments, renaming streets, and removing Stalin's body from the mausoleum on Red Square, where it was placed next to the embalmed body of Vladimir Lenin. Moreover, after Putin came to power, Stalin's reputation began to grow sharply. So one can expect that one Russian executioner will repeat the fate of another Soviet executioner, even though tears were shed for him after his death. Brussels' spy problem is the tip of the iceberg, says Belgian Justice Minister Paul van Tigchelt. Politico reports. Minister says that the recent scandals are only the tip of the espionage iceberg in Brussels. It is not the only threat his country's security services face. The problem is, of course, far from new, given Brussels' role on the international stage. Brussels hosts not just the EU institutions and NATO, but also around 100 other international organizations and some 300 foreign diplomatic missions. Belgium's spy catchers, who are responsible for keeping those European and NATO organizations safe, are increasingly faced with Russian hostility, Chinese spying, and the return of hardcore geopolitics, Van Tigchelt said.
It is not impossible that at some point one of these regimes that is not so close to us will try to falsify the elections by hacking into the system. We have to be aware of that, as it is possible. Paul van Tigchelt, Minister of Justice of Belgium.
Because of the spying threats, the Belgian government has doubled the manpower of the state security services. Its priority has also partly shifted from counter-terrorism, following the Paris and Brussels terror attacks in 2015 and 2016, to counterintelligence. There are other potential threats, as 2024 will be a key year, with both Belgium and the EU heading to the polls. As a result, intelligence services have to prepare for hacking and disinformation, said Van Tigchelt. In total, Belgium has now expelled 41 Russian diplomats for alleged espionage. Russia has not just invaded Ukraine, but it's also involved in hybrid warfare, also here, said the minister. While Belgium's espionage rules will become stricter, Van Tigchelt warned it remains difficult to prove espionage in front of a judge, as classified information can often not be used in open court proceedings. For the minister, conducting criminal investigations in court is just one of the ways to create a hostile working environment for spies in Belgium. Other ways include expelling diplomats for their involvement in espionage, withdrawing work permits, and closing down research institutes linked to espionage. I'll just note that Russian spies are a threat not only to Brussels. Earlier, the danger from the Kremlin was recognized in Switzerland, and before that, a spy network was discovered in Poland. I'm generally silent about the Ukrainian espionage network because for 2 years the Security Service of Ukraine has been identifying spies among deputies, representatives of the Russian Church, which propagandists call Ukrainian, and in representatives of the mass media. That concludes today's video. Thank you for watching. Stay updated, comment, like and subscribe to our UATV English channel for more news from Ukraine. Your support really matters. Goodbye.